Hi, welcome to ADK Talks, where we explore the wild, the sometimes weird, and the wonderful Adirondack Park. I'm Jane, your guide through today's episode, where we will once again feature stories of Adirondack ghosts and paranormal phenomena.
And I'm her brother Steve Ackerman, resident skeptic, fact dropper, and guy who's mostly here for the snacks, although lately the cheese hasn't been very good. So.
And in fact, you're an Acker fact dropper. So it's always good to have you on board, Steve. You know, I don't need to tell you it's Halloween season again. That means it's time for more spooky stories and tales of the weird from the Adirondack Park. Listeners, we know you loved our past episodes on haunted places, Bigfoot, and the Adirondack Park Paranormal Society.
So basically, we're doing what we always do, arguing about ghosts. Except this time, you remember to hit the record button, Jane.
Yeah, that's not good when we're 25 minutes into our conversation and none of it's been recorded. All right, we're going to visit some ghost towns in this episode, other haunted resorts that we haven't talked about, lakes with legends, and yes, one very famous lake monster. So some new information will be dropping on you.
So buckle up, kids. The Northway's getting scary.
Scary stuff. All right. Why don't we start out in Lake Placid? It's beautiful, tranquil, Olympic, and if you believe the locals, very haunted.
You're talking about Mabel Smith Douglas, right? The Lady of the Lake?
Exactly. You know, she was a New Jersey educator who disappeared while canoeing in 1933.
Where in New Jersey?
I think it was Rutgers.
Oh, interesting.
Her canoe was found, but no trace of her until almost 40 years later. That's 40 years later, when divers found her perfectly preserved body near Pulpit Rock. I mean, the water must have been so cold that she didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Decompose, yeah.
Or get eaten by the crocodile.
There's no crocodiles in Lake Placid. I don't think there's any such thing as a freshwater crocodile, is there?
Actually.
Well, maybe there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Of course there are. Didn't you see the movie Lake Placid?
No, I have not seen that. And does that take place in Lake Placid, New York, or Florida? Because there's a Lake Placid, Florida.
No, it's actually, I think it's New Hampshire, Maine, but anyway. I've heard divers still talk about the discovery. Not that I spend all that much time with divers in Lake Placid, but 40 years underwater, it's like a ghost frozen in time, if you ask me.
Yeah, and people say her spirit still drifts across the lake, especially at dusk around sunset. You know, we have briefly mentioned this actually in another episode, but the Stagecoach Inn is also in Lake Placid, and housekeepers report sheets changing themselves. I wish we had that here. And the Great Palace Theater, where footsteps echo after closing.
People still leaving the movie, Lake Placid. So basically, Lake Placid's full of ghosts with strong work ethics, I guess could say.
I would say so. Yeah, definitely. You know, only in the Adirondacks would we get productive poltergeists. But as I said, it would be great to have one of those here at our place. All right, Steve Areno, I think it's time for an Acker fact. Give us one.
Okie dokie. Fun one. Did you know Lake Placid is one of the deepest natural lakes in New York State? Over 150 feet deep. Plenty of room for secrets and maybe a ghost or two. And there's some dead fish, I bet, too.
I bet. That's actually, I did not know that. And listener, if you have been to Lake Placid Village, what you probably think of as Lake Placid is actually Mirror Lake.
Mm-hmm.
The actual Lake Placid is just, a little bit north of Mirror Lake. I think Mirror Lake kind of feeds into it. They're connected, right? West? Yeah. So when we were talking about this Lake Placid, this is it's not as populated. So perfect place for a haunting. Yeah. You know, also, if you want to see these sites for yourself, you can join guided ghost walks Or if you're brave, paddle near Pulpit Rock at sunset.
Just bring a life vest and your St. Christopher medal.
Oh, that's good advice. Okay, so let's go now from haunted lakes to haunted nothing. And what do we mean by that? We're talking about a place in the forest that is a ghost town.
And has been reclaimed.
We're talking about Tahawus, which, did I pronounce that right, Steve?
No, but I can't pronounce it correctly either.
All right.
So we're going to stick with that. But it's the same.
It's like Tahawus or yeah.
Tahawus or something. Yeah, something to that effect. But I've been saying Tahawus for so long, I can't stop.
Yep. It's spelled Tahawus. It was once known as Adirondack with a C, no K. And it's deep in Essex County, right at the base of Mount Marcy.
Adirondack was a community that was just south of... Anyway, we don't need to...
Are you arguing with me?
I'm not arguing. I don't know that they're necessarily interchangeable names.
I don't know about that.
Anyways, the site of the actual mine was a little bit outside of...
I'll go back and look it up, and we can do a correction next week.
We'll verify it for future...
Exactly.
Stay tuned, folks.
So
we'll update accordingly.
T-Town was once a thriving 19th century mining town, but now just its foundations remain and whispers.
It's the classic Adirondack story. Big dreams, bad roads, iron ore, bankruptcy, and the wilderness always wins.
Exactly.
As a side note, Iron Mountain and Mineville, Witherby are also old mining towns that, for all practical purposes, aren't there, except there is a very nice prison at Iron Mountain.
Now we're off on a tangent.
Yes.
But mining was an important industry in the Adirondacks at one time. There's a whole thing about it at the Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake, if you're into that sort of thing. But today we're talking about ghosts. The last residents left in the 1960s, but hikers swear they still hear doors creaking and footsteps in buildings that no longer exist.
Ever notice that silence can be the scariest sound?
Totally.
And as another tangent, which we'd like to do, they didn't abandon the houses. They moved them down to Newcomb.
Oh, I did not know that.
They moved some of them. I shouldn't say they moved all, but I think they moved most of them.
Steve, there's another Acker fact that we have for Tahawus, and actually will be featured in an episode that will come out in a couple of weeks about Teddy Roosevelt.
Yes.
What's that fact?
It was at Tahawus when he got word that President McKinley was dying. And he made his famous midnight ride with Paul Revere. No, it wasn't with Paul Revere, but it was out of those mountains to become president. Talk about history literally lurking in the dark.
Yeah. That is an amazing story that we don't have time for today. But fortunately for you, listener, we're going to talk about that in another couple of weeks. So make sure if you haven't, subscribe to the ADK Talks podcast so you don't miss it.
And visit if you want, but bring a map. The forest doesn't care about your cell signal. And that's very true. So don't rely on your cell phone to get you out of the woods in case it gets darker sooner than you think it will, because it will get darker sooner than you think, especially this time of year.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Steve. Definitely you can hike in and see it. It's not difficult at all, but it does definitely get your bearings about where you're going and what you're doing. Don't rely on your cell phone either for GPS in the woods or for light, because those batteries can drain fast. And as our friends at Search and Rescue of the Northern Adirondacks would tell you, 1 headlamp is good, 2 headlamps is best. So make sure if you're going into the woods, you are properly prepared. But that's another episode for another time.
Let's trade the crumbling ruins for luxury rooms. Ghost, but make them glamorous.
Were you trying to make ruins and rooms rhyme there, Steve?
I tried, but it didn't work.
It didn't. But I know what you're referring to. The Sagamore.
I was referring to Hotel Saranac. No, I wasn't. I was referring to the Sagamore.
We already talked about Hotel Saranac in previous episodes, which you have a lot of experience with their paranormal activity. But We're talking now about the Sagamore, which is in Bolton Landing, which is on Lake George. It has been there for well over a century. It's fancy, chandeliers, white linens, and the occasional disembodied whisper.
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 Richard Nixon was once at the Sagamore.
I did not know that. Jerry Seinfeld used to stay there, too.
I didn't know that. Maybe they stayed together.
I don't think so.
That's right. Money can buy happiness, but not ghost-proof walls.
I think the original hotel was built in 1883, and then it burned to the ground in 1893. You know, places in the Adirondacks don't burn. They burn to the ground. Every time I'm doing research, it's like, it burned to the ground, and they rebuilt it.
Particularly hotels.
They did rebuild it, and it burned down again in 1914.
And it sunk into the swamp.
No, it did not sink into the swamp. It was rebuilt yet again and reopened in 1921. So 2 fires destroying the original hotels, and some say the guests who were lost never checked out. Kind of like the Hotel California. You can check in, but you can never leave. Allegedly, there's a woman in a green gown, a man named Walter, and a mischievous little boy on the golf course who likes to steal golf balls.
I've lost a lot of golf balls. I don't think any mischievous boys had anything to do with it.
Okay, that's honest. Okay, so don't just take our word for these paranormal hijinks. Guests and staff swear that they've happened. And when the fog drifts across Lake George, you can almost see figures moving in the mist. Lake George is so pretty, but when that fog rolls in, it takes on a whole nother atmosphere. And I would also say, just as a sidebar, none of these places that we're talking about, like the Stagecoach Inn or the Sagamore, are hiding the fact that people have reported seeing ghosts there. In fact, some of these places really dig into it. And if you go there, you can ask about it, and the staff will gladly talk to you about it. So I encourage you to visit these places for yourself and see what you think. Okay, Mr. Research, you've been to the Sagamore. I've been to the Sagamore. True or false? Did you experience anything weird there?
Oh, other than the bar tab at the ice bar that one evening. But one night, a door did open all by itself. It was probably the wind.
Really?
Or maybe a ghost offering to change the sheets. I was already in them.
Oh.
It was a kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
I tend to make sure, but doors are shut tightly. But I have to admit, I don't always do that.
That's Adirondack hospitality for you. Always a little supernatural.
Well, from 5-star frights, I was going to say flights, which is something else I might have had at the Sagamore bar, but 5-star frights to childhood delights. See, that one worked a little bit better.
That is better.
Our next ghost built Santa's workshop, along with a lot of other things.
Yeah, I love this story. Some might say that Arto Monaco was the Walt Disney of the Adirondacks. Listeners, for those who may not recognize that name, Arto Monaco was a toy designer who created Santa's Workshop, which is famous in Wilmington in 1949.
It's famous there now, too.
Yeah.
Not just in 1949.
Thank you for correcting my grammar.
You're welcome.
Monaco also consulted on the development of some of the Adirondack destinations that loomed large in our childhood, like Storytown, which is now the Great Escape, but elements of the original Storytown still exist. Frontier Town, which is sadly gone, but was a blast to go and visit when we were kids. It was an Old West theme. Gaslight Village, Yesterday's Fun Today, what do you know? If anyone remembers that commercial, I can still sing the jingle, and more.
Considering all that, there is a rumor, similar to what the divers in Lake Placid say, that his spirit still pops up to check on his elves. So, might be, instead of ho, 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 it's Arto.
Oh, that was a good pun. Nice work. But you're exactly right. You know, at Santa's Workshop, the workers have reported toys moving, lights flickering, and music boxes even. I think this is weird, that these music boxes play when no one's around to activate them, which is kind of scary.
It is. That happened to be once in our childhood home.
Really?
Yes, up in the attic where I was my bedroom. In the middle of one night, a music box that you had started playing.
What was my music box doing in your room?
If you recall, at one point you were on one side of the room.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Scared the bejesus out of me
Wow.
at that time, but I didn't get carted off by any demons or ghosts. Just fell asleep under the covers.
I think it's neat that the hauntings, though, at Santa's workshop aren't really that scary. You know, it's like he's keeping the magic alive. And I think it shows that creativity leaves an imprint, even in death. And, you know, this Arto Monaco's spirit, you know, in his imagination, never clock out, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any kind of cool, obscure Monaco fact you can share with us?
He did design and build theme parks, and he did it in a number of places around the country, and he did it before Disney did.
Oh, wow.
Some of his designs inspired early Disney attractions. So technically, Santa's workshop walked so Mickey could run.
Oh, I bet the Disney organization would not like that fact, but
No,
I think
they
that's
wouldn't.
really cool. That's definitely...
I wonder what he ran for.
Yeah, that's definitely one that is worth sharing. Okay, what's up next?
All right, so it's time to swap elves for enlisted men. We're marching into one of the most famously haunted spots in the Adirondacks.
That's right.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's right. You are too much today. I know you don't drink coffee, so I'm kind of wondering what it is that you had today, if it was some kind of edible.
I had a turkey sandwich at around 3.
Oh, maybe it's the tryptophan. Anyway, you are talking about Fort William Henry, correct?
Fort William Henry, built in 1755. Like all the hotels, burned, rebuilt, burned again, fell into the swamp. It's like the Die Hard of forts.
You know, the fort saw some really horrific battles during the French and Indian War. Hundreds died there. The movie, if you're familiar with it, Last of the Mohegans, the James Fenimore Cooper's novel, The Last of the Mohegans, which is famous, and the Daniel Day-Lewis movie, Daniel Day-Lewis Hubba Hubba, take place in and around Fort William Henry. But it saw a lot of action in both colonial times and around the Revolution. In 1757, there was a horrific massacre that took place there.
And that kind of trauma doesn't fade. Visitors on candlelight tours swear they hear soldiers marching, smell gunpowder, and even feel cold hands brush their shoulders.
Creepy. Yeah, and those candlelight tours, they offer them pretty much April through October. You can do the haunted ghost tour. In fact, I'm going in the next week or so with a friend of mine who hasn't been. And it's scary, but, you know, it's kind of fun too.
You want to take a stroll at night through, I don't know if the park, actually, now that I think about it, they may not allow you to do it anymore. There was a time, though, you could walk through the picnic grounds that were on the battlefield.
Oh, the Battlefield Park. That's right.
Yeah, across from $1 Million Beach, and I was out there a few times at night.
Also, a site, here's a little bonus one of some paranormal activity. There is a fountain of a Native American, not a fountain, a statue of a Native American that people say he gets up and walks around the grounds at night. So that's definitely worth checking out. And just last summer they did archaeological digs there and recovered lots of items from the different wars and battles that happened there. So you can have some ghost hunting and also celebrate American history. It's that area is very rich in that, so that's great. And the fort is also part of New York's official haunted history trail, and the guides who lead those tours are excellent storytellers. So, Steve, this is kind of in your military trivia wheelhouse. You know, do you have a favorite Fort William Henry gem?
Well, One archaeologist found musket balls melted together from the heat of the fire. That means the fort literally screamed when it burned. Tell me that doesn't leave energy behind.
This is why I'm not doing the candlelit tour alone. All right, let's go from ghosts on land to monsters in the deep. Our next legend swims right where New York meets up with Vermont.
It's not really a ghost.
It's not a ghost, but it is in the realm of the paranormal, which is
Okay.
the overall.
He and Sasquatch probably hang out through most of the winter, but
That's right.
assuming it's a he.
Listener, we're talking about Champ, the Lake Champlain monster.
Champ's basically Nessie's American cousin.
The Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, I know who that is. Lives rent-free between Port Henry and Burlington.
There are centuries of sightings from, the first people who occupied this land to Samuel de Champlain.
Who claims to have seen it.
Yeah, claims to have seen it. And then there's something called the legendary Mancy photo that was taken in 1977. Sandra Mancy took a photograph while on vacation with her family that appears to show an animal with a long neck emerging from the lake. A lot like what you see pictures of the Loch Ness Monster. Looks a lot like that.
Skeptics say it's a log or a sturgeon, but believers say you just haven't met him yet.
It has to be a pretty big sturgeon.
With a long neck. Maybe it was a snake.
Didn't Vermont pass a law protecting Champ in case he's real?
I believe they have.
How old is that?
Oh, if I can remember correctly, it was in the early 80s. I was probably in college at the time. And Vermont, along with New York, passed legislation to protect the habitat and life of Champy, legendary monster of Lake Champlain. Vermont's 1982 resolution specifically protected Champ and encouraged scientific inquiry while prohibiting any willful act resulting in its death, injury, or harassment.
And as long as we're on the topic of, I think they're called cryptoids or cryptids, Whitehall, New York has similar legislation protecting any Sasquatch or Bigfoot in the area. So there it is. Can you follow up that with another Acker fact?
Okay. Did you know Lake Champlain is about 125 miles long, over 400 feet deep, and the deepest part being on the New York side? That's why if you look at the state borders, when maps show the border between New York and Vermont, it runs down much closer to the New York side of the lake than the Vermont side of the lakes, because
interesting
cartographers designate the border at the deepest part of a water body when separating.
Did you just say fartographers?
Chartographers.
Oh, okay.
Cartographers are a completely different thing. Anyway, if Champ's real, he's got more real estate than most Adirondack Airbnbs. So there's a lot of room for something to hide down there. Actually, they say over 400 feet. I've heard it's even deeper, but
really?
That's what I was told by a professor in college at some point.
Mystery preserved in fresh water.
Just like the Lady of the Lake.
Do we have time for one more, Steve?
I'm sure we do. We've met ghosts, soldiers, toy makers, and monsters. But there's one last place, if we have time, that deserves a quick, eerie shout-out.
That's right. We're talking about Spanky's Diner in Messina.
Spanky's.
It is a classic, welcoming eatery, and Messina's up there. And it may actually be outside the official blue line of the Adirondacks, but it's in the Adirondack region, right on the St. Lawrence, right? And, right near Canada.
Yeah.
But it's about as remote as you can get, I think. But it's a lovely place to visit.
Except the jukebox picks its own songs, and a ghost waitress still refills coffee after closing.
Really?
And she probably does sheets down in Lake Placid after she's done there. It's a quick drive for a ghost.
That's great. That's a haunting with free refills. We love that. Not bad.
If you're headed to the northern edge of the park, stop in. Spankies would love to see you. And leave a tip for the unseen staff. They'd appreciate it.
And leave a tip for the scene staff, too, because they'd appreciate it even more for sure.
Even more. True. So, Jane, what did we learn today?
Well, to be honest, maybe nothing that we didn't know before. Hopefully our listeners got some value out of this. The Adirondacks are beautiful, haunted, mysterious, and a little mischievous, just like you, dear brother.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
From deep lakes to ghost towns and lake monsters, I think one of the things these stories, whether you believe them or not, they remind us that the past is never really gone. It lingers in the fog, in the water, in the pines, and the way locals still whisper about it.
If you've enjoyed our tour through the supernatural side of the park, leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. It helps other curious souls find us.
And for more Adirondack stories, food, folklore, and events, visit adktaste.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
And until next time, travel safe, sleep lightly.
And if you hear footsteps on a quiet trail, just keep walking.
Don't look back.
Take care. See you next time, listeners.
Bye-bye.